Why does the relationship with the narcissist bother us so much, upset us so much, affect us so much? It's because they take our power away. And how do they take our power away? Because we gave it to them. So what if I had 8 ways, 8 simple things that you can begin to do right now to usurp your power back from the narcissist and put you back into the driver's seat in this relationship? Are you ready? Let's go. Hey there, friends. Glad to be back today. And today we're going to be talking about taking our power back from the narcissist and how to do this in 8 simple ways. Now, it's simple as long as you're consistent. Okay, you have to do this all the time. Consistency is key, and it can be hard to break the cycles and the patterns that we're in. But let's begin with the first one, and you'll understand what I'm talking about, and you can kind of play by play this on a daily basis in this relationship and in any relationship that you're in with someone that shows narcissistic tendencies. The first thing is that we want to resist reaction. In these relationships, we have a tendency of reacting instead of responding. Now, why do we react? Well, we react because we're being badgered. We react because we're being accused of doing something wrong, accused of being the problematic person, accused of being the drama queen or somebody that's selfish or all about self. You know, sometimes we can be badgered about us talking about our emotions, right? And that's not fair. But we begin to get conditioned to this. And so instead of seeing the reality and stepping back and saying, this is really not healthy. I'm not a selfish person. I put this person first, probably to the detriment of myself. And being aware of that, we react. Okay, it's their playground. The narcissist wants us to react because they're getting that attention, they're getting that energy, they're getting the supply that they want, okay? And so what happens is we begin to play their game, and unfortunately with their game, we can't win. So I want you to begin to not react. When somebody does accuse you of something, I want you to step back emotionally, even take a step back physically to remind yourself that you should take a step back emotionally. Take a deep breath and just let them talk. There's no reason, because you know for a fact that when you try to explain yourself, that usually goes on deaf ears, right? And that's also fueling the fire of what they're trying to create. The second thing that I want you to begin to do is to stop trying to express exactly how you feel and get the narcissist to understand your feelings, okay? If you're dealing with a healthy person, expressing your emotions, that's a good thing. We can have a good conversation. We can sit down and talk about it. We can better explore each other's emotions and explore where each person's coming from. Now, when you're dealing with somebody that expresses narcissistic tendencies, totally different story. You trying to express yourself emotionally is going to cause you problems. They're going to second guess why you're expressing yourself, make fun of, make jokes, make light of, right? Turn it around on you, okay? Make you feel bad about feeling that way, okay? Because you shouldn't feel that way. And then also turn it around from a healthy response to basically having you try to explain why you feel that way, and then sometimes even apologize for even bringing up your emotions in the first place. Icky. It's gross. And so I want you to try to self-regulate. Is there a need to try to express how you feel to someone who's not going to get it? What are you wanting from that? Think about that with real clarity. Because when you open yourself up to that, you're opening yourself up to scrutiny, judgment. Is that what you're wanting? Because I think you want to be heard, but you're going to the wrong place to be heard. So this is something that's very important, because when we open ourselves up to this judgment, it hurts even more, and it's even more unhealthy, because now we're like a raw nerve opening up to that exposure, and this person's using that to their advantage. The third thing that I want you to do is I want you to check your ego at the door. I know that many of us are like, what? What do you mean? What about my ego? How does this have to do with anything? Well, many of us don't realize that our ego is a big part of why we're staying in this relationship. We want to win. We want to convince the other person of our validity, of our value. We want to convince them of how great we are and that they'll eventually see how great we are because we're doing all these things for them, and they're going to turn around and be like, you're amazing. You're the best I've ever had. You're the most amazing person ever. I love you so much unconditionally. This is amazing. It's not going to happen. And so we keep walking down that path, kicking the can down the road, trying to make this work. But remember, a relationship in this situation is two different people, and two people have to want to make this work. But we also have to realize how much of it is wanting to make it work because the relationship is healthy and it's something that's good and it's something that brings joy and value into your life, versus how much of this is I want to win. I want to prove the fact that I can make a relationship work. I don't want to have another broken relationship. I don't want to have another divorce. I don't want to have another this. How much of it is that? And so when we're in these arguments, or when we're trying to express how we feel, when we're trying to save the relationship, we have to actually ask ourselves, how much is this my ego wanting to be successful in the relationship no matter what? Because to me, I don't want to win something that's not good for me. And so think about that. The ego is a big component a lot of times in a relationship, and sometimes it's the elephant in the room that's keeping you stuck in a relationship that's not working. The next thing that I want to talk about is our mind. Our mind can sometimes rule our lives. And one of the thoughts that many of us have when we're in toxic relationships, or we're in relationships that are unhealthy, is when we do think about exiting the relationship and letting it go because we realize it's probably not healthy for us, our mind begins to play tricks on us, okay? And these tricks are really interesting. One of the biggest tricks that it likes to play is that you're never gonna find another person to love for the rest of your life. There's never gonna be anybody else. You're going to walk the world alone, okay? And this is gonna be forever. And it's funny how our mind wants to basically entrance us into that, because as long as we feel like we're going to be alone and we're not going to have anybody, we keep looking to this relationship saying, you know what, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. I get home. It's really not that healthy, but there's somebody there. It's not horrible. It's not bad. We have arguments and I feel like I'm accused and I can't talk about my emotions and I feel stifled, but it's not bad because I'm not alone. So I want you to think about that. If you're having consistent thoughts that if I let go of this relationship, I got nothing, that's a game being played on you. That's a game playing, cut that. That's a game being played on you to get you to stay in this pattern of toxic relationships. Because if you stay in this relationship, the universe doesn't have to change for you at all, okay? And you don't get to really know yourself. So you stay in this, the devil you know, and you keep dealing with it, right? And you're getting beaten down for the way you feel, and you're having to hide your real emotions, but you're doing that because of the fear of being alone. We never really get to know who you are. You never really get to see your value because you can't feel valuable and be in a toxic relationship. It doesn't work. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't be in a toxic relationship and having somebody belittle you, put you down, call you names, accuse you, and you actually see your value, because that's not going to work. You're going to say, hey, sayonara, it's great, talk to you later, I'm out of here, So think about that. When you start having the brain tell you you're never going to meet anybody, you're going to be lonely forever, that's a deflection. That's deflecting you from actually seeing the reality of being able to shift into mindfulness and begin to figure out what is it that you want in your life. You don't want to rule your life by fear. When we rule our life by fear, we make really poor choices. The next thing that I want you to think about is I want you to realize and understand clearly you cannot save them. Okay? They're not asking you to save them. It's interesting when we feel that somebody displays narcissistic tendencies or other types of tendencies. We're like, well, we just want them to get them help. We want them to get help and to find themselves and everything will work out. But it's funny because most of the time, the other person doesn't feel like there's anything wrong with them. And so you're putting all this energy on trying to save them and wake them up. I want you to remind yourself you need to be focusing on saving your own life. When we get into toxic relationships, we lose ourselves. We lose our identity. Maybe we didn't really have a strong identity before. Maybe we did, but we lose it. And so we're basically struggling to survive. And so when you're thinking about this other person and hoping that they'll get better and they'll see a life coach or a therapist or somebody, I need you to realize that's also deflection. And when you take your energy back from that and begin to put yourself first and begin to see what you need to do to better yourself, you're taking that power back. You see what I'm saying? Because before, they're using your power, but they're not getting any better. They're accusing you, and you keep feeling sorry for them. Oh, I just wish they'd get better. But that's draining. Anytime you give power to somebody in a way and they misconstrue it or they misuse it, you're draining your own power. And you're also doing this under the guise of hoping they get help, but actually that's your mind playing another trick on you. It's playing a trick on you saying they are more important than you are. Okay? You getting help is more important. Because you got to save yourself first. It's like what they talk about in the airplane. If the plane loses air pressure, the oxygen mask will come from the top and you're supposed to put one on yourself and then your kid second, right? Because if you don't do that, you're just like dead. You can't help your kid. It's the same thing in any relationship. If you don't put yourself first and help yourself, how can you help anybody? And they're not even asking you for help. I know the narcissist isn't asking you for help. So why do you keep trying to help them with something that they don't even want to help with? They don't even understand. You know, it's funny because the narcissist actually thinks you're the one with the problem. You're the one that needs help. So think about that. Refocus that energy. And just pulling the energy away from the narcissist, they can feel it. They can feel it. Because they want all eyes on them. They want all energy targeted to them. When you start pulling that away, they're going to come closer. It's a push and pull scenario, right? It's like back in school when you like somebody and you told them you liked, you're like, oh, I like you. And, when you're in elementary school and they ran away from you. But if you acted really off-putting and didn't want to talk to them, it's like they wanted to hang out with you all the time. It's the same thing. So it's like just pull that energy away and recenter. Every time you start thinking about them and their problems and their needs and what they need to do, realize that's my mind playing a trick on me because I need to be focusing on my own stuff that I need to work on and start working on that and figuring out how to develop a plan for that because that's the most important thing for my life. Okay, so let's talk about the next thing. I always find it interesting how people are willing to play other people's games. They're willing to play other people's games, even when they don't know the rules. That's crazy. I want you to realize that a lot of times when we get in these relationships, we start playing their game and we lose every time. Okay. I want you to stop playing their game. They do it way better than any of us. Okay. I mean, it's like, think about it. One of the things about reaction is that's playing into their game. Like I talked about, the first thing I wanted you to do is really stop that reaction, resist the reaction, because you're playing into what they want. They're wanting to get this energetic, emotional supply from you, right? It makes them feel good. It makes them feel powerful because you're giving that power to them, right? And they like it. A lot of times in an argument, you'll see the smile. You'll see this Cheshire grin smile from them because they're so happy because you're losing it, right? And you're losing the game. So I want you to stop playing it, right? When you see an argument starting and they're starting to question you or accuse you, boom, that's your indication. This is the game being played. Don't play it. Take a break. Say, hey, I gotta take a call, or I gotta do this, or I gotta do that. Get out of there. Or don't even respond. Silence works too. Silence can be golden. But think about it. Don't play into what they want you to play into. See, most of the time we play the same role over and over again, right? So they accuse us, we react, we get angry. Eventually we find ourselves apologizing for getting angry. We don't even remember what the argument was about, but it was basically them making fun of us or pushing our buttons, right? But you keep going back and allowing it to happen over and over again. So they expect the same thing. So why not do something the opposite, something completely out of the ordinary? Right? That'll change things. It'll also get you aware of how much drama is in this relationship. I think over time, as you continue to do this, this will actually just get completely annoying. You will be completely annoyed by the relationship and you will see through the relationship. But it has to be consistent. As you play into this drama, we get addicted to drama. You got to be very careful with that. And then you start seeing the relationship as this ups and downs, and it starts giving you this feeling that you want. Even if it's not the most positive, we kind of get addicted to those types of things. So I want you to stop the buck when somebody's trying to argue or fight with you. Why are you taking the bait? Step back, take a break, change the subject. Gray rock. There's a lot of options. Many of you who dealt with these narcissistic type relationships, these toxic type relationships, and maybe you've taken a break or you've tried to break up, and you find that the other person who might display some narcissistic tendencies is going around telling everybody about the situation. They're drama making, okay? And they're telling about how you're just not a nice person, or how there's some issues that you need to deal with. And, she's just going through some stress, and I just can't handle it anymore. Her attitude's so mean. She's so judgmental. A lot of things that they might be texting your friends, maybe even some of your family members saying, I really feel like she or he really needs some help and some guidance at this point in time. Okay, so there ends up being this interesting new type of reality created by the narcissist, right? And so they create this kind of dialogue and this type of new reality that they've spun, right, to make them look like the good guy. It looked like they were the one that was abused. They were the one that was taken advantage of. They were the one that stood in there and tried to make it work, but you're just the one that just isn't going to let it work. And they've done everything they can. They've just done everything they can. If that's happened to you, a lot of times you start getting a little stressed out about, are people believing it? Are they responding to them? What do I have to do to try to put the fires out? What do I have to do to make things look better? What do I need to do right now? Stop. The interesting thing about life, and I think especially now more than ever, when somebody texts or calls somebody about someone else, I think for some people, they might get dragged into the drama, okay, and start talking about you. But for most people, this doesn't seem very honest. It seems a little underhanded, and it seems a little shady, okay? If there's a problem with this person, they can come talk to me. Why are you telling me about this person's problems? Okay, why are you telling me that there's something wrong with this relationship? And why are you communicating with me on this type of depth level? Okay, so I want you to think about that. Usually people see through it pretty well. Okay, and I want you to also realize why the narcissist does it. The narcissist does it because if they can create this narrative, okay, and they can get other people to believe the narrative, then they don't need to do anything. They don't need to change anything. And they can keep playing that victim role in their own head and how they did everything they could do to make this work, and you are the problem. Okay? And so you have to be okay with the fact that they're going to think that. You're not going to change them. If you break up with them, you're not going to change them. You're not going to get them to see how great you are. They're not going to scream accolades from the rooftops. No. They're going to tell other people about how you were mean and destructive and angry and whatever else they want to talk about, controlling, manipulative. Because that's what they're going to use. Because if I believe that everybody else has the problem, I don't have to change anything. I get off scot-free, continuing to do what I want to do, living in my bubble and allowing myself to do this. So if you're worried about what the backlash is going to be from a breakup, I think that's the least of your worries. I think we need to think about what we need to do to not get in another one of these types of relationships, be able to see those red flags and understand how that pattern began that led us to accepting a relationship like this. The eighth way to take back your power from the narcissist, and this will be the last thing I'm talking about in this video, is every time you begin to think about them, okay, so you just go into your day-to-day life, you start thinking about them, they come into your mind, you start thinking about them, you need to remind yourself as quickly as possible, as soon as you're aware of it, you need to remind yourself that this is a mental distraction. The reason why is that when we focus on other people, we get out of the mindful mind, we get out of our life, we get thinking about someone else's life, right? And then we put our energy into them. So we have to refocus our energy back onto us. And so I want you to wake yourself up and say, wait a second, this is a distraction, okay? I need to refocus myself. And a lot of times we find ourselves romancing the relationship after we've broken up. You know we did the right thing. We know we got out of a toxic relationship, but we think about that person a lot. Maybe we romance the good times. Maybe we're just constantly thinking about them. And the reason for that is we haven't worked on ourselves. I mean, it's interesting how we know more information about somebody we met on Twitter for 5 minutes than we know about ourselves most of the time. That's very true. It's truth. And so it's like we have to start getting to know ourselves, what we stand for, who we are. We have to see ourselves as a full person, and be able to begin to see our value. And so when you are distracted by thoughts of them, I want you to literally remind yourself this is a distraction, and also remind yourself what you did as far as a healthy response to move past, basically dislocate yourself from that relationship. Okay, so this is really powerful stuff. It can be really challenging. Some of the stuff might seem very easy, and it just like good art, right? Very simple pieces. Good art can be a very simple piece. Very expensive, but very hard to pull off, okay? And I'm not saying that this is hard to pull off. I'm just saying you have to be consistent, and you have to want to make these changes, and you have to want to take that power back. Once you start getting that power back, though, you feel it. It's like working out, right? You work out for 2 weeks, you start feeling good. You start feeling good. Those endorphins are going, they're feeling good. When you start taking your power back by not reacting, and you do that consistently, you will see a change in the way that you value yourself, and you'll see a change in the response from the narcissist. And the greatest thing is that you're going to feel it building up, because power, right, compounds and builds on other power. So as you become more and more powerful, you begin feeling better and better about yourself. We're not a victim. Okay, we're getting out of the victim role. We're leaving that role forever. We're actually creating a new book, not just a new chapter in our lives. And we're going to begin to harness that power. But in order to do that, we have to refocus our energy constantly to realize our value. When you are valuable and you feel your value in a positive, healthy way, you realize that in order to really live the quality of life you want to, we need to explore everything about ourselves, forgive the things that we're not happy about, work to make things better, and then expand our minds and our hearts to really understand who we are at the core of our being. And that's when we're truly powerful. I hope this video has helped you. Please share with your family and friends. Share here on YouTube, because being able to take your power back from the narcissist, this is life-changing. Okay? And this really awakens you to your personal power, and it also awakens you to the fact that you were never a victim. You took on that role for a little while, but that is not your role to play. Don't forget to live your true life.